Hi. In this video we're covering chapter number 5 out of the 6 of the menu system for Sony's A9 and A9II camera bodies. We're getting you set up for wildlife photography and for birds in flight. So come with me now. We're almost done with our whole setup and we're going to dive into chapter number 5. Alright, let's move on to chapter number 5 of the 6 chapters for the Sony A9II camera body. And the quickest way to move between chapters, as I've said, is to spin your front dial here. And you're going to notice I'm going to jump from chapter 3 to 4 and chapter 5. This is our setup menu. And again, once you're within a menu, the way you navigate is by pushing the control wheel to the right to go to the next page, or pushing down to select an item. The first item here is monitor brightness. I leave that just at the manual. The viewfinder brightness I leave at auto. The finder color temperature I haven't made a change to. I just leave that at plus minus 0. The volume settings I left it at a 3 for when I'm playing back something that has volume. I can listen to it that way. Now for deleting images, I like to have it as a cancel first. That way I don't make a mistake and delete an image that I didn't mean to delete. In other words, when you go to delete, it's going to ask you to confirm that, and you have to toggle over to yes, confirm that you want to delete it. I think that's a safe way so you don't accidentally delete the images that you wanted to keep. Power save start time. I go for 2 minutes there. If I'm not using the camera, I figured for 2 minutes then I must be walking somewhere and the camera goes to sleep and saves battery. Of course, you can change that. You can change any item here by pressing the center of your control wheel, and then you see all your power save start times. You can do 10 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and 30 minutes. I think 2 minutes is good for me, so that's where I leave that. And then I'm going to move on to page number 2 by pressing the control wheel to the right. Auto power off temperature, that I just leave at standard. That's if you're doing a lot of movies, the camera heats up, and you can have the auto power itself down, but I just leave that at standard. I haven't made a change there. NTSC PAL selector, I've got that at NTSC. I think that's the North American standard, so we just leave it there. Anti-dust function, this is new, and what that allows is for the shutter to cover itself up when you're changing lenses. That way you don't get dust on your sensor, and it's a nice feature. You turn it on by selecting it and then doing it with the shutter when power off. So what that does, I just have it in the cleaning mode here, so it's going to clean that shutter when I hit enter. But if you want the shutter to cover up every time, you would put it down here and select on in that instance. Touch operation I have off. That allows your monitor to be used as a focus device or a follow device. You have to touch it, and then of course you can do your menu items by touching it as well. I don't particularly like that, so I leave it off, and you can change that again by selecting it and turning it on, and then you can use your screen as a touch screen. Touch panel and touch pad, I've left that at the default because I'm not using the monitor as a touch operation, so I just leave that there. The touchpad settings, I don't do anything with that, again, because I'm not using that as touch operations. And we'll move on to page number 3. The first item there is grayed out. That's because I'm not in a movie mode. That's a demonstration of how the playback of the movies, you can have it on or off. I just leave it off. That's the default. A lot of this stuff I don't make any changes to. This TCUB settings, it sets the time code and the user bit, but I don't use that at all. Remote control, that's an infrared remote control. I don't own one of those, but if I did, or if you do, you would set that to activate the camera by going in here and choosing on. HDMI settings, I haven't made any changes to those. I just leave them at the defaults. 4K, I'm not in 4K movies. When I'm doing movies, I'm just doing HD movies, so that is grayed out as well. And the USB connection, I haven't made a change there. It's just on auto. Going on to page number 4. I don't make any changes here to the USB LUN supply. The USB power supply is just on as by default. My native language is English, so that's set there. The date time setup I do use when you first get your camera, and when you change time zones, you should set that so that you have a record of when you took your pictures. So you go into date time setup, of course, and you tell it the date and the time and the format and how to do everything and what date it is there, and that gets you set up so you have the correct date attached to your pictures. Area setting, that's the time zone you're in. You can tell it what time zone you're in. I'm in the Denver Mountain Daylight Savings Time. You can see that there, but you can choose whatever time zone you happen to be in. You do it in that menu there. IPTC information, I haven't made a change there, but what you can do is you can register certain information to your still images, such as your address and your website. You have to do that and add it to a memory card, and then go into this menu and tell the camera to access that and get it off of the memory card. But I don't do anything with that, so I've just left that alone, and we'll move on to page number 5. First item there is copyright info. I do write my copyright info to my still images, so this menu here allows you to type in your name. Right here I have it on, you can see that. You can set it as who you are, set the copyright, and then that gets attached to every still image that you take. So that's where you do that. The serial number of the camera, I don't care to have that attached to my images, so I leave that to the off position. If you wanted to format one of your cards, you come into here, that's chapter 5, page 5, and then you can format your card. But I've also written that to my menu, and it's a quicker, easier way to access that. I'll show you how to do that in the next video. The recording media settings is next. This is a very important menu item. This is where you tell the camera which slot to record to. Remember, you have 2 card slots and what to record on each slot. So the way I've got mine set up, and of course you select it, I've got mine to prioritize slot number 1, but then to sort the images, you can see all the changes that you can make here. You can do sort JPEGs and RAW if you're shooting both of those. You can simultaneously write to both card 1 and card 2 if you want to have an instant backup. But what I like to do is sort the stills to card 1 and the movies to card 2. So that's how I've got mine set up, but you make your own choice there on how you want your camera to write to the 2 card slots that you have. The next item, you can select the recording folder. If you've made up a folder and you want to call it The Birds of Colorado or December 2020 or something like that, you can go in there and you can choose that folder. My folder is just by default what the camera names it, 100 MSDCF, so that's what that chooses. But you can set that up to do any type of folder that you want. And here's where you do that. You make a new folder here and you can type in whatever it is, like I said, that you would like. Move on to page 6. The first item there is the file and the folder settings. So I just have my file numbers go in series, and to set the file name, the camera calls it DSC, but you could call that your initials or whatever you wanted. And it's just going to name the file. As you can see here at the bottom, it's an example. It's going to be DSC 01234, and they just go in order. That's the still images, and that's how I have mine set up. Then you have movie file settings, the same sort of thing. You can go in there and name the way that it calls your movies, but I just leave it to the default, and so I don't make a change there. Recover the image database is our next item. That means that if you've taken your card out of the camera and you've taken some of the pictures off of there, and then you move them back with your computer back into the database of the card, then you go into this menu here and the camera is able to recover those images. Display media info, I have that just at the default, which is from slot number 1, but I can change that very easily by going up to my custom button number 2 when I'm in review mode. This is where you find out what version of the firmware you're using. I happen to have the latest version, which is 2.0, and I'm going to do a video on how to upgrade your firmware version if you don't have it to the newest one. And we'll move on to the last page of chapter number 5. This is page 7, save or load settings. If you've written some settings to a memory card, or you want to save some settings to a memory card, you go into this menu and do it there. Remember, you had 4 custom settings that you could do and write those to a memory card. I don't do that. I have just the custom settings set up on my control dial up here, and it's enough for me to have 3 custom shoot functions up there, so I don't do anything with the memory card settings, but you could do it here if you wanted to. And then setting reset, you'd set the whole camera back to restore all the defaults. If you wanted to do that, you would do that in this menu here. And that's it for chapter number 5. All right, that was a nice easy chapter. That was chapter number 5 of the Sony menu system for their A9 and A9II cameras. We're getting you set up for wildlife photography and birds in flight. Just one chapter left. It's the My Menu chapter. And I appreciate you watching my videos as always. And if you have any further questions, you can hit me up in the comment section, or you can always send me an email by clicking the link to my website down below. Thanks a lot, and see you soon.